Well, this is interesting. Apparently, Lauren Southern is back for the 450th time with a brand new invention. This time, it is a book in which she makes heinous allegations with no evidence. And she has her little simp army already pre set up and running interference for her. Now, there's a couple of things you need to know about Lauren Southern. She was extremely popular during the quote unquote skeptic era of YouTube. I don't know if many of my viewers even know who that is, when that was, but this is what saw the rise of like Armored Skeptic, which is no longer active, I don't think. Sargon, which is still very active and thriving. There were a lot of skeptic type channels. 99% of them are gone. Basically, Carl, Sargon of Akkad and Shuan Head, who wasn't necessarily a skeptic, but also got like lumped into that, are basically the only people who are still culturally relevant. Lauren Southern was one of those people in that era, and gained a lot of fame, kind of exposing, hypocrisy, pronoun nonsense. If I look at her most popular videos, obviously you have, Science. Her Farmlands documentary was very good, I think. She would go to London and reveal what was going on there about with the Muslims, all this kind of stuff. And good work. And she was just a kid at the time, like in her early 20s, right? Well, a lot of time has passed since 7 or 8 years ago when she was wildly popular. And she's popped up a few times here or there. Most of you know, again, this right-wing trad woman, she, said, she was a big proponent of the trad life. She had an article written about her. Oh, the trad life didn't work out for me. Well, that's because she was also hooking up with Destiny, who is probably the most vile human alive. And that was kind of the end of her credibility in my book. Like, you have zero standards if you're sleeping with Destiny. He said that Corey Comparatori, the fireman who was at a Trump rally, deserved what happened to him. He said all sorts of heinous things about the kids from the camp in Texas that passed away, that they deserved it. Things like of that nature. I may be, that particular one, I'm a little fuzzy on it, with some sort of NordVPN thing. Destiny is maybe the worst human being on the planet. Intellectually dishonest to the nth degree. And this is who Lauren Southern was in love with. She was married to a federal agent, which she never told anybody. And she is a serial liar. She is also in several private DM groups I happen to know of with prominent female right-wing people. And they often coordinate responses, tweets, and narratives. People like Actual Justice Warrior, Lauren Southern, Sydney Watson, Hillary Crowder. They are all in these private DM groups. And I wish I could tell you more about that because it truly is vile. But I keep giving one of those people a chance to be a decent human being before I completely release all of that stuff. But anyway, now she's come back. Okay, so she's a YouTuber. She was provocative. She comes out with a book. It hasn't, her YouTube channel is basically dead. Her last video she uploaded got 30,000 views, and it was almost a year ago. She's tried to reinvent herself now as some sort of food expert, all of this stuff. And Lauren Southern, much like many of the other female conservatives, I thought was a friend of mine, only to find out later that they had a secondary DM group where they would talk garbage about me all the time. But, that's for a different video. So, yes, I find in my personal interactions with Lauren Southern, she's been wildly manipulative. And she wants to sell this new book where she admits to, doing drugs and coke binges and all this kind of stuff. And then she had a mental breakdown, a psychotic break. But in order to sell her book, she has decided, hey, I'm going to release a chapter of said book where I talk about how I hooked up with Andrew Tate. But I'm going to spin it a little bit. And I'm going to say that, well, yeah, I was hanging out with Andrew Tate. Yeah, I let him sleep in the bed with me. Yeah, we were making out. Yeah, we were making out the next morning, as people saw. But she really cowardly implied that some sort of horrible SA had happened. Now, she also claims that she went to local hospitals and local law enforcement, and they just didn't care about it, which I find really hard to believe, given how desperate the UK is to prosecute Andrew Tate. Given how progressive Canada is, I find it extraordinarily difficult to believe that she went to these law enforcement places and they simply told her, see you later. Now, maybe she did, and maybe there was more to the story, because she says, you know, what really happened, I reluctantly reached out to UK authorities the next day, feeling it was the right thing to do, only to be met with indifference. They told me an investigation could only be pursued in Romania, a country where I had been explicitly warned about police corruption. I went deeper into a disassociative state as a result, feeling certain there would never be a resolution. Now, I wonder if she was wearing her wedding ring at this time when she was hanging out with Andrew Tate or not, if she was still married. Let's see. I'm not sure. You know, attempts to involve Canadian authorities led to similar dead ends. It's almost like I wonder if she didn't have any evidence whatsoever. So she did, you know, as I often critique I often have, you know, hey, how come you didn't file a police report? Well, she allegedly spoke to people. I don't know if there's any kind of official report because she never released that. So I don't know. And why hasn't she said anything about it in the last 5 years? The only way anyone found out about this, okay, is through her selling a book. That is the, by the way, Hillary Crowder claimed that I was divorced, that I've been divorced for 2 years from my wife. She stated that as fact on Twitter last night in defense of Lauren Southern. That's just the type of women we're dealing with here, by the way. This, again, she claimed, I want to get the actual passage because this is where it's really cowardly. Here's just what she admits to. I'd rather not give a detailed account, so keep it simple. Andrew Tate carried me back to the hotel room and asked me to sleep beside him. I said yes. I was incredibly intoxicated, and some part of me convinced myself that because he was Tommy Robinson's friend, he wasn't particularly dangerous. It was a poor decision, but it happened. He kissed me. I wasn't expecting it, and I wasn't looking for it. Really? Is that what you do? You lay in bed with a man, probably in your, you know, undergarments because you're going to bed? That's in a kiss would be totally okay. Then she said, I kissed him back, briefly. Then I told him I wanted to go to sleep. I was extraordinarily tired. So she's extraordinarily tired, extraordinarily intoxicated, but she remembers every single detail around this. Interesting. He wanted to go further. I said no very clearly multiple times. I tried to pull his hands off me. He put his arm around my neck and began strangling me, unconscious. I tried to fight back. He repeatedly did this. Every time he regained enough consciousness to pull at his arms, I'd prefer not to share the rest. It's pretty obvious. Now, I find it pretty interesting that she specifically does not say that he did any kind of SA to her. I find it pretty cowardly because she's using the implication that he did, right, to sell a $25 book, which, by the way, only an idiot would buy. Andrew Tate, of course, his response, chooses the chapter about me to release, quote, for free to get attention so she can sell her memoirs of promiscuity. Coincidence? I'm sure. I'm glad you admit you're a drug addict in the post. That might explain why you forgot all about the text messages you sent begging to see me again. Should I release them in my book? Sluts who begged for me. Here's Tommy Robinson, who I have a lot of trust in and I think is a good man who, you know, maybe hasn't done the best things, but he was there. He was in the next room. Here's what Tommy Robinson, by the way, defending a Muslim, which takes a lot.
Here's a horrible fact, okay? I was there when Lauren Southern travelled to Romania with Andrew Tate. I was in the hotel room next door. When I walked out in the morning when we were leaving, Lauren Southern's at the door kissing him. Okay? So when you read what she says there, like he's raped her.
Yeah, Like he's done, yeah.
Implying.
That's what she's
Weird
implying.
to be kissing him on his door and then get in the car and message him the whole way. Insanity. Absolute bullshit.
Interesting. Interesting. Here's a statement on behalf of Andrew Tate from his lawyer. Andrew Tate unequivocally repudiates this pathetic filth peddled by Lauren Southern in her pitiable tome. This is not real life, a washed-up nobody loser memoir, if there ever was one. No evidence supports her claim. There is so-called free chapter, released nothing but an evil marketing play, a sensational teaser engineered to propel sales of her book by parasiting Andrew's fame. Southern is a faded relic, destitute and pathetic. She told me she was destitute too. She told me she had no money. But then told me the offer I gave her, which was more than generous, wasn't enough money. Anyway, scavenging scraps of relevance through Andrew's renown, we've witnessed this wretched ploy countless times, stale, tepid, utterly contemptible. Now, I know a lot of people in this video are going to say, ooh, you're simping for Andrew Tate. I'm simping for the truth, okay? I think it's entirely likely that she had consensual BDSM interactions with Andrew Tate. He appears to be into that. He appears to be into BDSM, and she's spinning it, this is just my opinion, as a horrible case. She provided no evidence of, contacting the authorities. Maybe she did, maybe she didn't. Men, this is the playbook to destroy your life. Turn consensual hookup into non-consensual via retroactive accusations, weaponization for extortion, lawsuits, and payouts. No man, husband, father, or son is safe from this venom, where mutual encounters become traps for financial ruin. This is a clarion call to men everywhere. The war rages with false accusations weaponized to shatter lives, twisting consensual bonds into extortion snares. Everything is on the line. Rise now, demand proof. Yeah, I would love some proof. This is a girl that's basically been with half of the people I know in the conservative space, but I won't make fun of her for that because those guys were also participating in degeneracy. Andrew Tate hooking up with her is degenerate. Paul Joseph Watson allegedly hooking up with her, also degenerate. There is a long list of men just in the conservative space that she's been with, but the one that is probably the worst is Destiny. This is a woman that's reportedly worked with organizations, provided information against Gavin McInnes, provided information to Antifa. This is alleged from Milo in a long documentary or in a long article series that essentially ruined her career. If you want to know more about who Lauren Southern really is, you can read what Milo wrote about her in this article that ended her career. Okay. This was, where's the article? I think it was called The Grifters. Here it is. Meet the klepto queens of the British far right. This is the video that ended, this is the Twitter thread that basically ended Lauren Southern's career. You can read all about the claims that Milo makes here, that she was informing against people on the right and doing all this kind of stuff. You can reread all about it. This is, again, apparently, the right is now the believe all women side of things. Absolutely pathetic behavior. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you leave a like on it. If you haven't yet, make sure you subscribe or follow down below, and we'll talk to you again real soon.